Hello and welcome back to the Saints Squad Show. I'm your host Dylan Sanders of Pelicans Roundtable and Saints Wire. And you know what? At least the loss looked kind of good. Jonas Saker's a dog. I'll take that at 0-4.
I'm Darian Gray of Who Dat Dish, and I'm in a much better mood than I was last week.
John Hendricks, New Orleans Football, and I too am in a better mood, but they're still 0-4.
It's the Saints Squad. Everything New Orleans Saints, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from down in the Big Easy, the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Saints Squad Show, starting now.
Howdy, Internet Nation, and welcome back to the Saints Squad Show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every Sunday and Wednesday. We have a unique group of experts here ready to bring you a fun and informative show on everything New Orleans Saints. Today, we're going to be diving into the 31-19 loss to the Buffalo Bills, but it's not as bad of a loss as it could have been, and everyone's kind of in a little bit better of a mood because the Saints actually looked like they had a pulse and practice at least once this week. So it's all an improvement over last week. And, at this point of the rebuild, you got to take the wins where you can get them because there's not going to be a ton in the win column. So you got to look good when you could. So let's just jump into it today with our instant reactions. We're going to go through and talk about the offense a little bit more, talk about the defense a little bit more. If y'all have any questions, drop them in the chat. We'll use hashtag Lance isn't here because Lance isn't here today. So hashtag Lance isn't here for the questions, show questions. But yeah, let's just get into it with our instant reactions and let's go with John. What did you think of today?
Yeah, I'm proud to see that they put up more of a fight. They were 14.5 point underdog in this one, so they covered the spread. Congrats to those who actually used that and bet on that. But I thought the ground game getting going, I was really happy to see that. I've been talking on the show about getting Kendre Miller involved a lot more, and look what happens when you get Kendre Miller involved. I just feel like they've got too much talent in that backfield to not use both him and AK, but that was good to see. But you look at getting a turnover. I thought Jonas Sanker was a huge bright spot on defense. I thought that, when it came down to it, there's a couple of plays that if you don't have those happen, the game may be different, right? This is still another if they don't do this, if they don't run something silly and try to do a Philly special at the end zone and get some points up on the board. If they don't do this, they might have a chance. If they don't send a punt rush on that at the end, they can get the ball back. But we'll never know. And this is still very much a sign of a rebuilding team. And, with the Giants winning, it sets up a little bit interesting. I don't think the Saints are the worst team in football. See the Tennessee Titans, I would say. But, look, it's still a painful thing to see on the field, a product that as far as some of the players, I think there are some players that are just not playing up to level that they need to. I think some players are playing pretty well. But now we got to see what happens, and it's another week back to the drawing board, but 0-4, it's not really like we didn't see this coming for this team to start the year.
Yeah, and I think that you brought up a great point in the fact that there's this play, and there's pivotal moments, which are frustrating, yes, but I find it, maybe I'm being optimistic. I'm okay with that after this performance. But I find it encouraging that I can actually point to a handful of plays as opposed to last week where it just felt like everything went to, as soon as the game started. So in a step up in competition, yet again, for you to feel like if Rattler hits this throw or if you don't have this penalty, I like that. But my biggest takeaway is we're talking about penalties. There was only 4 of them, right? Like, right. Penalties has been the biggest issue, in my opinion, because it comes down to discipline. We can have arguments about talent. We can have arguments about scheme. We can have arguments about all of that. But when it comes to penalty, it's discipline. That's what it is. So for you to only have 4 after 3 weeks in a row of having penalty issues, that may be the thing that I walk away the most encouraged with. Hopefully this is a trend that continues. But even if it's just for a week, we've talked so much about it when it was negative. We should shine a light on it when it's positive as well.
Yeah. Do you have any other instant reactions to this game, Darren?
Well, president of the Jonas Sanker fan club checking in, right? Like, I don't know if you were here, John, when Dylan anointed me with this title. You know, we were arguing over if it existed. He said I could be the president. So it was a very proud day for me. I think that this class has potential. I really do. I like this class, and we'll see what it ends up being with a lot of pivotal players. But Jonas Sanker has quickly developed into my personal favorite. And I think that his pass breakup was impressive. The first pass breakup, I thought that his interception showed a lot of range. And then his third one showed his ability in man coverage when the ball is in the air. And hey, it's me or you, it's going to be me. So the defense had some issues that have popped up before, like tackling. I think we expected that with Josh Allen and James Cook. If they weren't issues that had already arisen through weeks 1 through 3, then, you know, maybe I would have let it go. But that is something that still needs to be cleaned up. And then lastly, look at how the offense operates when the run game works. There was a point where the offense was very smooth. In my opinion, this felt like the most consistent offensive display that we've seen from Rattler and Moore. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that the run game was working. When that can be your engine, you allow Rattler to make timely plays like his scrambles. You let him make a couple of throws here and there. This is the offense that the Saints wanted. Kendre, Alvin pushing the game downfield. Your offensive line is finally healthy and they're pushing. And then Rattler just needs to come in occasionally. I think that this brand of football works against other teams. You just so happen to be going against the Super Bowl contender.
Yeah. Well, we were talking a little bit about Jonas Sanker. I do want to, pull out. I'm going to pull out the PFF a little bit early, just because that is like one of the biggest talking points. He did get credited with 5 missed tackles in this game, so yes. That is obviously something he has to clean up. But I think as of right now, we can focus on the positives because, man, he looked like an all-pro today. And I think that is the biggest, takeaway I had, at least on the defensive side of the ball instantly. Man, he looked really good, and he looks like one of the only competent defensive backs that they have out there. Like Kool-Aid hasn't lived up to the expectation this season. Justin Reed certainly hasn't lived up to expectations this season. We're finally getting to see a little bit of Quincy Riley. Whenever he gets beat, it's still a little bit of, he's showing some fight and their competitive losses. So I'm really intrigued about the young people on this defense, because I think the defense overall has been a little bit disappointed. We'll get into that later. Other considerations, I'm really happy with Spencer Rattler, man. He has shown the grit and fight that you need out of a leader. I get that he's 0 for 10 as a starting quarterback in the NFL, but that really doesn't feel like fair to him, because he hasn't played like a quarterback. Like I've seen I watched Nathan Peterman play quarterback in the NFL. He doesn't. That is a quarterback that looks like he's 0 for 10 as a starting quarterback. Spencer Rattler doesn't look like that. I think that Rattler has looked much better than his record shows. And I still, through an 0-4 start, I'm fine still rolling him out there, because I think that he is who is giving the Saints the best chance to win right now.
I liked how he used his legs a lot in this game. Coming into this formula wasn't that crazy. Bills had the worst run defense in the NFL. I mean, they were giving up 156 yards a game. Saints finished with 189 yards on the ground. Spencer Rattler had a good bit of those. He was fine. And I feel like his pocket awareness, his presence is definitely showing up here. And again, his play is not without flaw. We know that, right? And the thing is, it's just one of those where you're going to have the Shuck side say, well, it couldn't be any worse, and the Rattler side say he's fine. Like, we're going to be at this all season long, right? This is just how it's going to be. But I feel like there were some good throws and good decisions Rattler made here. I feel like there were some that were just a little bit, like the touchdown was. And you have to go back and probably watch it a little bit more. Was it more on Rattler not making the throw right, or did he really give Cooks the chance? Or, with some of the stuff with Kamara, different things, or Olave, but I think that touchdown hook up to Olave in the end zone, that was beautiful. That was one of the best throws I think I've seen him make. And he hit Shaheed a couple of times with some really good throws, but I really do like the decisions that he is making. You're taking sacks when you don't pick up opposing defense at all, even when you're communicating and talking about it pre-snap. That's a problem. There's nothing that Rattler really can do in that situation, unless you are Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or maybe a Jalen Hurts. But I'm with you. I feel like again, Rattler's not necessarily a reason why you lost this football game. I think this is more about some of the defense faltering or some of the miscues or the play calling and stuff. And I don't want to sit here and say I'm a pro Rattler and going to sit here and make excuses for him every single week or anything like that. But I just don't think it's the same result if you put Chuck in the game.
Yeah, and I think that I'm going to do something that's a little bit unrealistic, but I'm going to ask for people to actually articulate what their issue is with Rattler when they want Chuck. Like, I don't think that people do that enough. I think that when it comes to Rattler, it's a really interesting conversation that eventually is going to slide the direction of results, but it's the results versus process conversation. I think his performance has been solid this year. Even in his worst game against Seattle, I thought he was okay. I thought he was probably slightly below average in that game to average, but they have seen, or if they're seeing what I'm seeing, they have seen a guy who has leadership capabilities. They've seen a guy who is decisive. He has his awareness in the pocket. I think that some of those late turnovers that go on the box score, those fumbles, a lot of them are him just trying to make a play. And if you're just reading the numbers on a sheet, it can look away. But when you watch, you understand what the scenario is. You want him to not fumble the ball, of course, and that's happened a couple of times that are too frequent, in my opinion. But the situation is called for him to try to make a play. And when that happens, a lot of times security is not the same. I just think that Rattler, as you both have said, and I'm going to echo it, has performed well enough to where we shouldn't be talking about is Chuck right on his shoulder, because I don't think that he is. But at the same time, 0 for 10. And I think that we're going to reach a point where that record is too much to overcome. So I don't know when that happens. I'm not at that point right now, but I do think when looking forward, it's realistic to paint that picture with that brush.
Yeah, you're entering Deshaun Kaiser territory. I'm sorry, Dylan. I just wanted to say this real quick. Is with with Rattler. This is playing out kind of like we thought. Like Rattler would get first crack. He's going to have these games. I think if they can't beat the Giants next week, then maybe you have a current conversation and say, do we need to spark? Do we need to turn to Tyler Shuck? Like at some point, this podcast has said many weeks and many months ago that at some point Tyler Shuck will start a game for this team. I think it's coming at some point, but if you're saying based off the first 4 weeks, I don't see it yet, right? I just don't see that need yet.
Let's talk a little bit about Kellen Moore, because I think that this was definitely his best game in the NFL, even counting the odd decision to go with the trick play. I couldn't find the words. The trick play that led to the interception at the end zone. I don't hate the decision, but at the same time, the run game was working so well. We'll get into the run game here in a little bit. I think the run game was working so well that you want to keep running it down the field. And as Fred Williams, shout out Fred Williams in the comments, it's no shots downfield. I think that is still an area of the offense that needs to get working. But overall, I think this was Kellen Moore's best game yet, especially coming out of that loss, to be able to get the players to buy in and have the effort. And they definitely played the toughest that I can think of this season, even though they still did lose by 12 points.
Can I add something? I want to add something real quick. The downfield target conversation, which I think is extremely valid. But if you're not going to be able to target downfield with efficiency, number one, I think that we've seen that they do target. It's not efficiency, but I'm not going to play word games there. If you're not able to efficiently get downfield with your passing attack, then you need to show the ability to move down the field methodically. And I don't think the Saints have shown the ability to do that consistently through weeks 1, 2, and 3. But this week they did. And I think that should be noted, because if they're going to protect over the top or you're not able to do it, everybody's not going to stretch the field. But you need to get there and score points. And I thought that the Saints showed the makings of being able to move down the field, largely with the run game, some with the passing game, but mostly on the run, the back of the running game. On the back of the run game, I thought they showed the ability to move downfield, and I think that should be noted. I know we want to see the 25-yard downfield throw. We want to see all of those things, but at the end of the day, it's about moving the ball, and I thought the Saints showed the ability to do that better this week, even without the deep ball. So I think that's just a little bit of context for it.
Yeah, of course. I honestly I honestly thought that, you flip flop it's on the 2-point play. I could have saw maybe the Philly special, and then on the other side, that third down play, maybe you run it with Rattler in. But I just don't like the fact that you're going for a trick play there when you've been running the ball on Buffalo. You can get them guessing, you can get some coverage in the end zone, and Rattler could have probably ran it in. Of course, we won't know, but I wasn't too big a fan of that call for sure. And then in the run on the 2-point conversion, like quarterback run, you got tight ends there, give your tight ends a chance. It just didn't seem like it was the right calls. But I'm with you, Dylan, though. Going back to your original point, I thought Kellen Moore called a better game and leaning on that ground game. That was always what this team's identity wanted to be, is the ground and pound, and they just hadn't had the starting offensive line, and then they do. Ruiz goes out, Simpkins comes in, so I know you're going to talk about him later and kind of how his performance was, but I think they've got something if they can keep some of these guys together for longer than, an actual game.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's jump into that to the offensive overview. We're going to start with the run game, but we'll talk about it all coming up next. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Lance was right. He called the first interception of the season being done by a safety. That was Jonas Sanker. Shout out. Darian Gray's pumping his fists, leader of the fan club. But don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Maybe Lance should have gotten on PrizePicks. He could have won a little bit of money. Because playing PrizePicks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You pick more or less on player projections like Spencer Rattler's passing yards or Alvin Kamara rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. My favorite part, PrizePicks just added stacks. So if I want to ride with a player, I can select their yards, their pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. And the new injury reboot feature, if your player leaves early and doesn't return, it won't count against you. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Let's go to LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5-hour energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup, plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What I love most is how portable they are. Big taste, tiny shot. You can take it anywhere and get that boost when you need it. Yesterday, Saturday, was a busy day for me. Had to drive over to the Pelicans facility for practice in the morning.
Bro, nice mustache, bro. I didn't see that.
And then I had to rush home to cover the LSU game. I didn't really get a break yesterday, and I don't think I would have gotten through it without a tropical burst 5-hour energy shot. Enough with the boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-hour energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store and online at www.5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. Had to go with the old 1-2 ad read. All right, let's get into the offense. Let's start with the offense. Let's start with rushing the ball because I think that was easily the best part of the game today, at least the most fun to watch. Kendre Miller looked the part of the Kendre Miller that we've wanted to see from rookie year. He, 11 carries, 65 yards and a touchdown. He ran tough. He ran balanced. He looked a little bit like Alvin Kamara a couple of times out there. And then AK, 15 carries, 70 yards, kind of a classic day. He didn't really get going in the receiving game, but kind of no one did. So let's jump into it. Darian, what do you think of the offense today?
I was really encouraged by the running attack. I would be interested to see what the distribution was because I felt like a lot of Kamara's rushes were outside, and I thought a lot of Kendre's were inside, but just confirmation, on that. Sometimes the eyes can trick you. But I thought that the duo was everything I thought the duo could be. And when you get a little bit more push, you get to see that. The running attack, in my opinion, has been flawed by the offensive line. It has not been the running backs. So when you face a defense that is statistically the worst in the NFL, and it's not just because they faced Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in week 1. They had a poor performance against the Dolphins on Thursday Night Football as well. When you face a defense like that, you have to take advantage, and the Saints did. At the end of the day, I don't know if bad teams are expected to take advantage of the things that they're supposed to take advantage of. So the fact that the Saints did that is something to note. This is a good duo. I like Miller. He's probably one of my favorite underdogs on the team a little bit. I still feel like that injury history puts him in the underdog category, but great performance. And I think you could see more of that with a increased or improved offensive line.
Yeah, I could agree with that. John, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, you had the top 3 rushers averaging 4.5 yards per carry or more. I mean, AK was the lowest at 4.7. Rattler was way up there. Miller was 5.9. Rattler is 8.2 on 6 rushes. I mean, Shaheed brought the average down with 2 carries for 5 yards. So yeah. I think the run game was fine. And the thing is, I understand there's a counter argument. Well, why aren't they doing shot plays? And you got to have protection to do that, right? And the thing is, the Bills on 3rd down were pretty aggressive in the protection department. I mean, there's times where they had to keep AK back there or Kendre Miller, but you got to have protection in order for that to work. But I think it can come in time, like Darian said earlier in the earlier segment, that give it time, because if you can do this formula against a different team, it might give you a different result, I feel like. And so I like the fact that they were running. I like the fact that Chris Olave rebounded after, the interception, and then a couple of drops. Like he had a key 3rd down that probably could have had, I mean, that's Chris Olave. He's paid to make those catches, right? And then there was a later one that he was just kind of should have had as well. I mean, so I feel like that you look at this offense, that it was good thing to get Trevor Penning back in the lineup, right? Like he struggled a little bit early on, knocked the cobwebs off. I thought he played a pretty good game, just from the first eye test. But, the run game has got to be this team's bread and butter. And, this kind of goes back to what we said in the first segment about Spencer having some of those quick decisions. It's not there, take off. He's got some elusiveness to him and such, but that ground and pound, that can go a long way. And I like the fact that Shaheed's becoming a little bit more of a target in some aspects. I hope to see him get more reps there. And Juwan, I mean, he's getting a lot of the snaps, right? And Juwan's got to settling in after having that game that he had where, he could have won the game for the Saints, maybe, technically. But overall, it was better than we've seen in some aspects, but it's still got a long ways to go before it's even close to saying, I think this was a good offensive performance, like a really good one.
Yeah, and when you combine the two, I think Kamara, I'm going to check real quick on my phone, but I think Kamara had 14 carries and Miller had 11, if I'm not mistaken. 15 and 11. So that's 26 carries between the two of them. I like those numbers as you go through a game. I really do. I think that is in only 27 passes for Rattler. I don't know what, that number probably changed a little bit when you include his scrambles and things of that nature, but overall a relatively balanced team today. And that's what you need. You need to lean in on the run game instead of abandoning it at times. I think even when it doesn't work, you have to not just beat your head, but this is a talented group. It can pop a little bit. You can get a 7-yard carry here, an 8-yard carry there. And we saw Kamara in space on Joey Bosa a couple of times. I think it was like 3 times that I counted. And we saw the same elusiveness. Bosa had him square it up. Alvin Kamara still running. You saw Kendre. The thing that doesn't get discussed enough because Kendre just hasn't been on the field a lot is Kendre is phenomenal at breaking tackles. Like his ability at contact, I've heard it be talked about. It needs to be talked about more because it's rare that the first guy takes him down. I sent out a tweet earlier about how his ability to fight through contact is my favorite trait. Yes, but he also shows it nearly every time he touches the ball. That includes passes, rushes, that includes kickoff returns. He tends to make the first guy miss. And if you're not squaring him up, it's going to be very difficult to tackle him. So I think that this duo having this performance, hopefully it's a spark to say we need to lean more into Kendre. We need to continue to lean into Alvin. And that's going to make everything easier on our quarterback and hopefully lead to wins. I'll keep pressing that button. You played the Bills. You play the Giants next week and you run the ball against the Giants. I think you have a significantly better chance of winning than if you put all of the weight on Rattler. And that's not a diss at Rattler. I have to throw these disclaimers out there. That's not a diss on Rattler. That's just the way that the Saints want and need to play football.
And it definitely did help to have, at least for, part of the game, to have the offensive line fully intact from what you want. I think Trevor Penning looked good today. I think overall, Kelvin Banks he, I thought, had a pretty good game. He did give up a couple of pressures, but overall, I was still impressed with his game today. And then Torchelli Simpkins, that's a guy who stepped in and had a really tough game last week, but stepped in after Ruiz went down and looked pretty solid. Darren, you were asking me before we started. Just go ahead and give it now. The pressures for Pro Football Focus. He had 24 pass blocking snaps and gave up 1 pressure. So that's solid. Solid for a rookie that is still finding his footing in the NFL, as opposed to a guy that's been around for years and years and years and is getting paid like one of a top half guard in the NFL, but is never playing like it, really.
Yeah,
so
I saw a couple of blocks in the run game too where he showed up. I thought that this was a good performance by him, and I'm gonna mention it because I guess I'm petty like that, but I'm not gonna mention the idea of whether or not he could step into the lineup. We'll see. I will be interested to see what the health of Cesar Ruiz is after this game. See what the health of Radence is going through the week, because you may get a Simpkins starting game on Sunday versus the Giants. Like, I think that's a very realistic possibility, and not from the fan side of, oh man, no Ruiz, right? Just on a literal health standpoint.
And speaking of health, Talise Fuanga finally got back in the game, and I thought he looked much better than he has in the past couple of weeks. This is what we wanted to see. We didn't want to see him step into the game hurt and then have to play over that and then get beat constantly like he did a couple of weeks ago. They let him rest, and he came back, and he looked great.
You didn't put as much of a focus on him this week as you would have in previous weeks. Yeah, I agree with that.
I'll just say this too on the run thing for next week is the Chargers just had a killer run game performance against the Giants defense. So this formula could potentially work. Omarion Hampton had 12 carries for 128 yards. He was averaging almost 11 yards a carry. And then Justin Herbert had 1 carry for 24 yards. Like, they torched the Giants on the run department. So, I mean, I think it could potentially come up, that if they can use Miller the right way, if they can use Kamara the right way, and they can play a disciplined game similar to what they did, they have a shot. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're going to beat every single team or they're going to beat the Giants, because, Jackson Dart and the Giants, they upset the Chargers today. So I think there's a lot of, again, work to still be done. I think that you go back to look at some of these passes Rattler made. If it was maybe a little bit different in the timing, it might be different. And we said this in the top of the segment. So it's not like he played perfect or flawlessly or anything, but if we're going to micro analyze every single play that happens, then everybody's got their hands dirty.
Also,
go ahead, Dylan.
I was going to say, switching gears a little bit, talking about the offense, just before we move on, I wanted to talk a little bit about the receivers. Chris Olave needed to have a much better day. I think he had a couple of bad drops. It was good to see him get a little bit into it and show some emotion whenever we thought Brandon Cooks had that touchdown. But still, overall, most of the day, again, it felt like Olave just really wasn't there. He really, really needed to catch some of those passes. But a positive from the wide receiver game, something we've been wanting to see, is that the lowest average depth of target this week was Chris Olave at 8.6. Rashid Shaheed and Brandon Cooks were both at 11. You want them all to, at least get 10 yards a catch, but I think that they were at least showing a little bit more of an effort to get them the ball a little bit further down the field than just these quick passes that go for 2 or 3 yards.
Yeah, and let me add this. I was trying to go search real quick. I know the Saints only have 4 penalties. I don't know if any of them were pre-snap infractions. And when you're trying to move the ball down the field, maybe one. I know there was a grounding. There was a Rashid
Shaheed was lined up offside, but they called a timeout.
So what you're seeing there is, in my opinion, the lack of pre-snap penalty. Yes, you want to erase penalties, period. But the Saints have been putting themselves behind the sticks way too much. And what happens when you run the football? You're able to have better opportunities on 2nd and 3rd down. But most importantly, what happens when you're not getting offsides or lined up offsides without the penalty, like you mentioned? What happens when you're not having false start, not having illegal formation? You're no longer pushing yourself back. The Saints can't afford to push themselves back. And I talked about penalties. There's a few things that I want to keep knocking the entire show, and the discipline is one of them. When you don't have pre-snap infractions, you're able to put yourself in better offensive position. this is one of the things that I wanted to note. I wanted to see. And when it happened, I wanted to make sure that we noted it as well.
All right, well, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the defensive side of the ball. I don't think 31 points. Yeah, it wasn't 40, but still, and there's only so much you can do against Josh Allen. But I still think that there's a lot to talk about and discuss over on the offensive side of the ball. Now, normally for these ads, I like to do this, bring it up on the full screen, but this week, John and Darian wanted to stay up for the ad read because this is just a product that they really love and care about. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra Cialis. John told me he tried them and did not really like it. It was looking for something different. So I'm going to go with today. Y'all should try out Rugiet Go Long, because Rugiet Go Long, it's not just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 trusted medications in one dual action formula. And this part is straight from Darian testimonial. So you can get hard and go the distance. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. John's going to be feeling his Rugiet Go Long by the time we get ready for Wednesday's episode. So are you ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? John
I like how he meets us.
Darian is. So head to Rugiet, that's RUGIET.com, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet, RUGIET.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Make sure to use our code so you know we sent you. Us 3, John and Darian especially.
And Dylan, you didn't say your name.
John and Darian especially sent you. I'm just the messenger. All right, let's talk a little bit about the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. Let's talk about defense. Like you were muting us on purpose. That was some good defense.
I wasn't muting you. I wasn't muting you. You were free to chime in. I heard y'all talking. You are free to chime in. Anyway, let's talk about the defense. 31 points to Josh Allen and the boys. James Cook. With a team like the Bills, at some point, it really feels like there's only so much you can do because they are really so talented. But I still think that there were some points where it felt like less them just being better and then the Saints still having some room to improve. I'm talking about like the secondary again. The linebacker, Demario Davis didn't have his best game. Pete Werner, again, really didn't have his best game. But I think that overall, I think the best part was probably the aggressiveness and the attitude. Cam Jordan getting an early sack. He almost had another one at one point. But, John, what did you think of the defense today?
I was encouraged by what I saw from Jonas Sanker. So you brought up earlier about his 5 missed tackles. That doesn't bother me, right? Like, he's a rookie getting live bullets here. He is going to make mistakes, just like getting Quincy Riley. Like, I'm glad that they took Ike Yadim out of the game and put Quincy Riley in. Let him get experience. So I don't care about those types of things. Those rookies, they're going to make mistakes. But I do have an issue with players, veteran players, who are in the lineup that aren't playing up to their potential, right? Like, you saw Pete Werner get his ankles broken by Josh Allen on that. That was a tough watch. You mentioned Justin Reed earlier. That's been a little bit disappointing there. I just feel like there's some things from a defensive perspective that there's still a lot to leave to the imagination. And 4 games in, the Brandon Staley defense just really isn't cutting it, right? We thought the move to 3-4, putting players in the best position to win, all this other stuff was going to be a much better product on the field, but it hasn't been. You look at the third down defense, Buffalo was 3 of 10, so that improved, but still you look at James Cook lighting it up, 5.3 yards a carry, 22 rushes for 117 yards. You knew Josh Allen was going to get loose at some point running the ball and missed tackles on the touchdown, missed tackles on some stuff with Josh Allen. I mean, that's the type of stuff that's maddening to watch about the defense, is that they really needed the defense to be the bread and butter, and they can't get it. They can't get stuff when they need it to, or stop, or just play in this inconsistent brand of football, and that just doesn't work. And so that's what was really disappointing. But I thought Jonas Sanker was a huge highlight there. Seeing Cam Jordan get another sack. He passed Robert Mathis today. Now he's 20th on the all-time list, so good for Cam. Granderson got a sack. Brzee got a sack. So it was a time where I think Buffalo fans were a little bit uneasy. Like the Saints were playing a little bit better defensively than I thought they would in some aspects. But, when it comes down to it, when you need to stop, when you need to play, when you need to do certain things, they just kind of let you down, and that's just not okay.
Yeah, I think factoring the expectations, I'm a little bit different than John on this side where I actually, I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like I walked away more positives than negatives, right? Like I actually walked away feeling more encouraged than discouraged on a play-to-play basis when thinking about the expectations. I knew that James Cook is an extremely elusive runner. I knew that Josh Allen was elusive. I knew that they were going to force some of the tackles to be missed, which is why I'm not overly concerned about Sanker. Also, I don't think he has a reputation for that. That's number one. But then also, I thought that there was times like Sanker's 2 pass breakups, his interception, where that showcased. I thought that after the interception, for them to be able to put the offense in position a couple of times to have good field position, these are things that I don't think we were expecting to see in this matchup. Silver lining, maybe. I know you give up 31 points. You don't want to be overly happy about giving up 31, but I thought throughout it, the fact that the Bills fans felt uneasy at times, I would agree. I don't need them to call me or text me to know. I could feel, maybe it's telepathic. I don't know, but I felt as if there was an uneasiness from that fan base based off what the Saints defense was doing. And they weren't supposed to be I can't think of the word I'm trying to say, but they weren't supposed to have that type of performance. I think that they were supposed to come in and be steamrolled, and they weren't. Yeah. And I thought that in various moments they showed up. Granderson getting back into the sack column, Cam getting into the sack column, and Brzee getting into the sack column. These were moments to me that stood out. So maybe it's because I expected a steamrolling, but the Saints defense having 3 sacks on the day, I thought that Sanker being the obvious bright spot that he was. I thought that Quincy Riley, you mentioned earlier, if you could look this up for me, Dylan, what was his yards after the catch if they have it? Because I do think he tends to be closer to the receiver when he catches the ball than the other DBs are. But there was some bright spots in there that I didn't really think were going to happen. I thought you could get some bright spots on offense, but defensively, I thought that there was going to be an absolute mashing of the defense.
Yeah. I'll give you the Quincy Riley bit was 0 yards after the catch, and that was the only catch that he gave up. Oh, and we have a 4th coming in perfect timing after the second ad read. We have Lance Moore.
This was purposeful. Yeah.
We talk about defense, and then here comes Lance Moore.
I think this is. I'm gonna tell you what I think, John, and walk with me. I think that Dylan and Lance conspired. So he said, "Hey, Lance, just stay until after the second ad read. I'm going to set them up and say that this was their message, and I'm just the messenger. I don't want to put you in that position, though, so just come in after." That's what I think, and no one can prove otherwise. So I'm going to go with that. That's cold work, Dylan. Oh, man. You too, Lance. I expected better.
It is what it is.
Before we get to Lance, I'll finish what I was saying about Quincy Riley. 0 yards after contact. After catch, and the biggest thing with Quincy Riley to me today, and something that I was really happy to see, Phil's happy to see, but, early, Keon Coleman gets the big catch over Isaac Yiadom, and you know what they did? They took Yiadom out of the game. They said, all right, we're going to go with the young guy, and I think that is something that we really need to see more of about the Saints team, of going to the young guy, especially if the veteran's struggling. Some of these places, they don't really have better options. But I think Riley is a spot where I do want to see him get out of the field, because I think that he looks good. And he did only give up that 1 catch. And it was a catch there. He still made a nice play on the ball. It was just a nice catch.
But, no yak.
And no yak. No yak.
That is too much yak.
Alontae Taylor in reverse had 71 yards after because I think that was the Khalil Shakir play, really. But still not great. All right, Lance, instant reactions of today's game, and we're talking a little bit about the defense, but start off with full instant reactions.
Well, I mean, I think as I guess encouraged we could be about being way more competitive today, I think I'm equally disappointed. because of, first and foremost, the lack of tackling, right? Clearly that is an issue that will continue to rear its ugly head unless they get those things
15
figured out.
tackles.
15 missed tackles. I mean, that's insane. And a team that is as good offensively, as great offensively as Buffalo is, like, you can't make those types of mistakes against them. And I think the most unfortunate part about that is all of those times we're in position to make plays and do not make those tackles. So, the Khalil Shakir touchdown is inexcusable. That cannot happen. And it's tough week in and week out to see big plays against our team. And then on the flip side, we continue to not have big plays. Like, it's the same thing over and over again. Questionable decision-making, again, in my opinion, from Kellen Moore, and specifically that red zone disaster that happened late in the first half. Just do the simple math in that scenario. Buffalo's out of timeouts. There's 1:36 to go on the clock. You run the ball twice, kick a field goal. Worst case scenario, you go in at halftime down 1 point. And again, when you get in the red zone, you have to get points. So for me, I'm encouraged by the competitiveness of the game, that they looked better clearly than they looked last week. But I'm also disappointed by there being meat left on the bone in, I would say, all phases in this game, but specifically on offense. And then defense just have to finish plays. You can't. This is the NFL. You can't miss tackles because guys on the other side are good too. So I am encouraged by the competitiveness of the game, but I'm still disappointed because that was a winnable game, in my opinion. We just didn't do enough to win it.
Combining the yards after contact with the yards after catch, that's 229 of the Buffalo Bills offensive yards.
That's
crazy.
And
I think the tackles, I expected, and I think you should expect any defense to miss some tackles versus Josh Allen and James Cook. But this has been a repeated issue. There's no, you're going against this team. Well, when you're going against the 49ers, you were missing tackles. When you're going against the Seahawks, you were missing tackles. When you're going against the Cardinals, you were missing tackles. And honestly, I didn't realize it was 15 of them. I didn't realize it was that many. I don't care who you're going against. This is a huge issue. And I think the defense has some bright spots, but that's one thing in the same form as discipline on the offensive side of the ball. That's something that if you don't get it cleaned up, your defense will never fully get it together. The same way if you don't clean up those pre-snap infractions like they did today. But if they hadn't cleaned it up, the offense was never going to get into a rhythm. So now I think we have a huge focal point for the defense. It's tackling, it's finishing, because you have plays like the Shakir touchdown where you missed 3-4 tackles, and one of those was DeMario. So yeah, huge problem for the Saints.
Through 4 games. Any guesses for how many missed tackles PFF has accredited to the New Orleans Saints defense?
Say 43. I'm gonna say 43.
I'm gonna go. Let's say this is like Price Right. I'm gonna go 42. I'll go one underneath.
$1, Bob.
48 missed tackles through
Close.
4 games. They have not finished a game with less than 10. And
yikes! Big yikes for me, dog.
Yeah.
Oh man. Lance, what did you make of Rattler's Day? Because I think there's been a lot of debate on some of the passes, like, if Rattler connects and stuff. What did you see from him? Because, according to everybody, we're so pro Rattler about this. So,
well, no, I think
player's perspective might actually mean a lot more.
And look, Rattler handled, I think, the atmosphere well. Rattler made some good throws, but to me, the decision making was great. Not good. It was great. I think that the almost touchdown pass to Brandon Cooks, he's got to hit that. Got to. You want to be the starting quarterback in the NFL, you got to hit those throws. That to me, especially with no defender around Brandon Cooks, you have got to. Those are game-winning throws. If he makes that throw, obviously it's a whole different game. We're winning the game at that point in the fourth quarter. So, like, you're not going to get that opportunity again. And to me, missing touchdown potential touchdown throws is the same on the defensive side when you drop an interception. It just generally things don't come back around in that same way. But I overall, I think he had a really good day. I'm not going to say he had a great day, but I think decision making, getting himself out of harm's way several times, scrambling. He hit somebody with the okey doke. That was nasty in the open field. You know, he had over 50 rushing yards. I mean, like, you know, that's a big deal in a game like this. And he's handling the pressure that he's getting consistently from 4 guys and 5 guys. I mean, we should be able to block up and allow him the time necessary to make the decisions and make throws downfield consistently. But I think he handled it well. Of course, he was sacked a couple of times as well. But all in all, I think he had a good day. Not a great day. He makes that throw to Brandon Cooks. We might be talking about him having a great day. But you know, and it's I think more opportunity to throw early in the game could help him out. Like he heated up as the game went along. But taking the ball out of his hands down in the red zone and doing the Philly special, like, to me, that was silly. You know, like I don't
silly
like
special.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that decision. But yeah, that's a good one, John. I just think that we at times get in our own way. And it's hard to win games, especially against really good teams, when you keep shooting yourself in the foot. And that's what the 2025 New Orleans Saints, in my opinion, have been beating themselves just as much as the other teams have been beating them.
You know,
they've been beating themselves for years. I'm just saying.
You mentioned you got to catch those interceptions, right? Chris Rumph has made a couple of plays here and there. And as a guy who's just going to be rotational for you, he really has some splashes. You know, sometimes we treat every single player like they're the star. I don't want to hold him to a star level standard, but he had the fumble forced on Mac Jones. He hit Allen's hand on what should have been the interception to Pete Warner. I feel like he maybe had a play against Arizona too, but it feels like when he comes in for his limited amount of snaps, he tends to flash. That was a really good pickup for the Saints this offseason.
Yeah, he was really good in camp, and I think it is transferred into this game.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into our final segment, wrapping it up. Let's get into our players of the game and any chat questions, any questions that y'all have, be sure to drop them in, and we can get to a couple towards the end of the show. But yeah, see y'all in a second. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5. That's it. And if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Whether you're a casual fan or just love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. And today was a win for me. It was the easiest decision ever. I had Josh Allen passing and rushing yards and James Cook rushing and receiving yards. And I did have a Spencer Rattler touchdown before y'all, get on me for not having the Saints back or anything. But it was an easy decision, and it worked out. And it could have worked out for you. You put $5 on that. If it hit, would have been $300 in bonus bets. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. That's $5 bets. And if it hits, $300 in bonus bets. All right. Close it out today. We're going to do players of the game. It's meant as in they're supposed to be 4 players. But, sometimes that doesn't always happen. Lance, go ahead. And who are your players of the game?
Well, it's the most fun. So
break it up a little bit.
Lance's went. They said no, Lance can't have his players of the game because he froze.
All right.
Am I still frozen?
I think you're back.
He might be back.
Okay, my bad.
There he is.
Yes, I said Jonas Sanker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Easy.
Probably one of our
guys got-
top
easy.
guys.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he is, to me, he's getting better every week. Obviously, the play that he made, the ground that he covered, and the ball skills that he showed, to me, is a bright spot on a defense that had a bunch of plays go against him this week. I predicted, pat on my back, that we would get our first interception this week. And so hopefully that leads to many more for this defense. But to see Jonas Saker fly around, making plays, making tackles, look like not just that he belongs, but look, he's starting to kind of stand out a little bit, especially in a secondary with a lot of youth, but the signing of somebody like Justin Reed, who was supposed to be the guy that flies around and makes plays and game-changing plays, for Jonas Saker to be the youngest in that secondary, but be the only one that's flying around making plays is encouraging and reason enough for me to think that he would be my player of the game this week.
Yeah, I think that was the best choice. Like we said, he does need to get better with tackling. He had 5 missed tackles in this one,
Yep.
but that I do think that the coverage and the reliability that he has had in coverage as one of the only reliable parts of this defense, especially coming in as a rookie and as someone who was not expected to have as big of a role as he does have with the Julian Blackmon injury, I do think that it has been a great start to the career for Jonas Saker. And today, really, as much as it is important on the field to make the solid, consistent plays, those flashy plays are how you get your name known. And Jonas Saker did that today. So a lot of new people know the name Jonas Saker today. Congratulations to the fan club, Darian.
Yeah, I liked how Charles Davis and Jason McCourty were really touting Jonas Saker too. I mean, like it's pretty complimentary. I like that broadcast crew, by the way, too. They're really knowledgeable. Not that anybody asked.
Yeah, and I love
your players of the game.
I loved his pass breakup, his second pass breakup, because yes, he showed the range on the first one. That's the star play. It's kind of like in his game against Jacksonville where he had that interception. It kind of overshadows the other plays he made during that game. But that pass breakup against, I think it might have been Kincaid, it was one of their tight ends. He had great coverage. He was right there with them, but then he also looked back. And so often you see guys not look back. He looked back, he elevated, he high pointed the ball, and he was the main guy on that play where it was no help. It was him versus the tight end, and Josh Allen has been known to put the ball where only his guy could get it. And it felt like the way that Saker reacted, only Saker could get to it. So that was one of the other plays that I don't want to get kind of covered up by the interception. The interception is the star play, but this right here was an extremely well-defended pass.
Yeah.
All right. John, who is your player of the game?
I'm just going to take one, but I do want to give an honorable mention if nobody talks about him, which I'm sure you won't. But I just got to go with Kendre Miller. Kendre Miller, I thought the way he played on the ground, 11 for 65, and he averaged 5.9 yards a carry, 18-yard run for a touchdown. I thought Kendre was a huge bright spot for this offense, and I've been clamoring for Kendre to get more involved in this offense. I wanted to see, not that I didn't want to see AK, because I think AK did a fine job too. He deserves some flowers for some of his runs as well, but Kendre just has a different element to him. I mean, you can get some of the outside stuff with Kamara, and you can get the north-south with Kendre, but he also has the balance to him. He has the ability to make people miss, and he's got some deceptive speed to him. So Kendre's got to be one of my guys. And then honorable mention, I just put Blake Groupie in there just because he made his kicks, and he needed to make those kicks. And if you make a 54-yard kick on the road, I mean, that's good confidence builder.
Yeah, no, it took my guy. I was like, okay, maybe I'll go first. I'll pick Saker. And
Blake Groupie? No.
Hey, I was like, man, if they pick Saker, I'll go with Miller. That's cool. And then they pick Miller. That's now third. But it's okay because I knew this was possible. So I'll go with Carl Granderson. I thought he had a couple of really nice plays. One was the sack. I thought that there was a play where he was in coverage and Josh Allen was scrambling, and we had a lot of issues tackling Josh Allen. But you see a guy, I think it was Josh Allen, it was somebody, but we had issues tackling everybody. So whoever it was, we had issues tackling the Bills. But there was a play in space where you had Carl Granderson come down from being in the coverage, and he ran down and made that tackle in space, just him and nobody else. So I like that. And then on another short yardage play, you saw Granderson get in.
Fourth down
he
stop.
It up. He was the one who mucked that up. He was the one who made that tackle. And these are pivotal moments throughout the game. You know, I know that play where the dude went wheeling up the route. No one's expecting Granderson to cover that. No one is. I don't know what that coverage was. We'd have to go back and look at it on film. But if I can't pick Sanker and I can't pick Miller, I'm going to go with a guy who caught my eye a few times, and that was Carl Granderson. But Moore, Hendricks, y'all got it, man. Like that. Those are the picks. Those are the picks. Kendra and Jonas. But you know, I'll throw a little bit out there for Granderson.
I do think there's one more deserving player, and I'm going to go with Trevor Penning. It was his first game of the year, and I think that he stepped in a new position, in a new role, a couple games late, and I think had maybe the best game of his career. He was, you know, a lot of times you were able to forget that Penning was out there, which is not something that always happened whenever he was over a tackle. So I think
no pre-snaps.
It was no pre-snap penalties for him.
No holding penalties. Yeah.
And no holding penalties. The penalties we talked about earlier are way down. Great. 4 penalties. You can win a game with 4 penalties. You can win a game. But yeah, Penning, I think, was good. And I'll give my honorable mention to George Helly-Simpkins for having a much better bounce back game at the other guard spot. I think this was one of the better games for the offensive line. And I think that if they play like this, I mean, we saw the holes open up in the run game more than they have. So if you have this type of offensive line performance, you have this run game performance, I think that you can win some games down the stretch. It does hurt that the best performance of the year comes against one of the best NFL teams of the year. So it didn't really end up mattering. But overall, positive steps for the offensive line. So I'll go with Trevor Penning as my pick, just because it is his first game. But also, Simpkins, nice job. We did have a question. Y'all can drop a couple more questions. A question we had was, where do the Saints rank in terms of missed tackles? That's not. I couldn't find out how to look that up exactly on PFF, but the Saints do, by a wide margin, have the worst tackling grade in the NFL. So I assume that probably has a lot to do tie in with it. The other teams are the Houston Texans and the Chargers and stuff.
And look, that is a tough. It's a tough thing to get corrected, right? Because the team is not going to be tackling in practice. But on the flip side of that coin, this is the NFL. Every single one of those guys knows how to tackle. They're just, for whatever reason, not using the proper technique, not wrapping up, closing their eyes on contact. Like, there's a bunch of different reasons why they're doing it, but it's problematic when there's a bunch of players on the same team that are having problems tackling. Like, it's not they're not coaching it up right. This is the NFL. All those guys know how to tackle. You don't get to the NFL playing defense and you don't know how to tackle. So it's about the players correcting that. It's not a coach thing where the coach is going to walk in and say, hey, on your tackles, make sure you're wrapping and rolling. No, he's going to say, we got to use proper technique and finish these plays. It's not good enough just getting there and making contact. It's not good in there flying at legs, hoping that guys are going to fall down. Josh Allen, James Cook, Khalil Shakir, all those dudes have great contact balance and always are making people miss or bounce off of them. So you have to finish. That could have been a coaching point early in the week. These guys break a lot of tackles. Let's make sure that we're locked in and we're finishing and using the proper technique. But it's up to the players on the field to go out there and actually execute and make those tackles. So while it is a scary stat for a team to be poor tackling, it's not like the coaches can just roll out some Joe Blow on a practice squad with full pads and let the defenders tee off on them to practice their tackling. It doesn't happen like that in the NFL. They've got to make the corrections every Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can I have a question? I know I'm not in the chat, but I got a question for Lance. I think that we talk about Chris Olave, and I don't think you were here at that point. When we're talking about Olave being the guy, and I think the Saints are still hoping he can develop into being the guy. From a former wide receiver perspective, what are you looking for? What are the things that you see out of a receiver and say he can be the number one on my team?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think first and foremost, you have to make all of the routine plays, all of them, and most of the unroutine plays, right? Like you can't drop easy passes ever. You just can't do that. And you have to be a go-to guy in any and every situation. third down, red zone, drive starter, don't matter. I need a big play. I got to go to this guy. Like that to me is someone that consistently is winning and someone that consistently is making plays for you. Make all of the plays that you're supposed to make and make most of the plays that are tough to make. That to me is what denotes or makes up a number one guy. I think for whatever reason he is up and down because it doesn't seem to me like his concentration and or confidence level is where it needs to be early on in games. It's a slow starting, kind of slow burn because he got better as the game went on, which is okay, but it's tough to overcome drops early in the game because especially in a game like this where there's not a ton of opportunity, you got to make those plays. You got to keep the offense going. You got to keep the confidence going with your quarterback. And when you're not making those routine plays routinely, like my Tomlin would say, it's kind of hard to build that momentum and become one of those go-to number one guys.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully the only part of the routine that you'll take from this is to come back over here on Wednesday for the next episode of the Saints Squad Show. We'll be right back here on Wednesday. Thank you for listening today to the Saints Squad Show. You can check out me, Lance, John, and Darian on our socials for the latest. Be sure to check in with Ross over at Locked On Saints for the latest on everything Saints. But until then, we'll be right back here on Wednesday. So thanks for watching.